Welcome to the Rock Interview Series with host Thomas S. ORWAT Jr.
Welcome to episode number 46 of the Rock Interview Series. I'm Thomas ORWAT Jr. It is February 10th, 2022, and my special guest is drummer, author, actor Phil Varone. Phil started his professional music career in 1988 when he helped form the hard rock band Saigon Kick. Within 2 years, Atlantic Records signed Saigon Kick to a recording contract and released their debut record in 1991. Saigon Kick then toured the world with some of the biggest bands in rock music. In 1992, Saigon Kick released their second record, The Lizard, and had a top 10 single with the track Love Is On The Way. Phil remained with Saigon Kick until 1996. In 2000, Phil joined the multi-platinum band Skid Row. Soon after, Skid Row went out on tour as a support act for the original member Kiss farewell tour that also featured Ted Nugent. In 2003, Skid Row released the well-crafted, hard-rockin' record Thick Skin. While still a member of Skid Row, Phil performed briefly with the Vince Neil Band in 2003. In 2004, Phil quit Skid Row and the music business to focus on being an actor and author. Phil returned to playing drums in 2012 when Saigon Kick reformed. He played with the band until 2015. Then in 2018, Phil joined Red Dragon Cartel, featuring former Ozzy Osbourne guitarist J.K. Lee. Phil toured and recorded one record with the band. Recently, Phil has resurrected a side project called Panic Boom, which he started over 25 years ago. Panic Boom released their first single, Revolution, earlier this year. What follows is an exclusive interview with Phil Varone in which he talks about his new project, Panic Boom, and his time with Saigon Kick, Skid Row, Vince Neil Band, Red Dragon Cartel, and much, much more. So here he is, Phil Varone. Welcome to episode number 46 of the Rock Interview Series. My guest today is drummer, actor, author Phil Varone. Phil, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad at all. You have a new band out called Panic Boom, and you have a new single called Revolution that's out.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about that, of course, and we're going to talk about your timeline, and we're also going to talk about the fact that you survived COVID twice. So you survived COVID, you got the tobacco Super Bowl, and what's going to be next? World War III? Oh, it could be, right?
You never know. I mean, it depends on what Putin's up to. There's a lot of stuff going on these days, huh? It's definitely, there's no break in excitement. That's for sure. At some point, you just got to kind of go like, because after so many years of it, I think everybody just gets burnt, no matter what side you're on. It's like, all right, already, we had enough. Let's talk about some music, it was actually weird because COVID itself was a start. It was kind of like a starting point for me where I actually decided to do other stuff. And that is pursue another career in editing and even though we're still putting out music, I spent 30 years in the music business and I never had a home studio until now. I never had all that stuff, but COVID, because everything basically shut down, I sat there and went, I'm going to learn Pro Tools now. That thing stuck. I bought Pro Tools. I swear it was in the corner for about 2 months, like taunting me, like I was afraid of it, and then I jumped in on it. Once COVID hit, it was like, well, I got nothing else to do, so I ended up doing that and editing. So how Boom came around is we formed the band in 94. So it was after I left Saigon Kick, I put this band together with my buddies. The same guys are in the band today. It's 30 years later. They're like 35-year friends, 40-year friends. And it happened because COVID, I asked them just to do one song, which would be the remake of Revolution. We wrote Revolution back in 94 as well. So I just wanted to redo that for my documentary, 30 Years of Drummer. Now it's like 32 years of drummer because 2 years have gone by. And I guess it was like timing or what, but it just sparked us to write. Originally, again, one song. We had about 6 songs recorded from 94, and I still have the demo. So the idea is that we're going to show the demo, like, let people listen to the demo in the documentary, and then let them hear what we re-recorded, a bunch of old guys 30 years later. And then all of a sudden, this writing thing started. And we never got in a room together. So luckily we have technology like this, and everybody has a studio in their house, and we just started writing songs, and it kind of, the time flew by, and it turned into, hey, what do you want to do with this now? Because one song is like, it's great, but now we have 14 ready to go. We have 2 albums full, basically.
Wow.
And we're still writing. The writing never stops. We at some point we had to cut off and go, look, we got to finish what we have, So the good part about this stuff is that, one, it's fun now because it's a hobby. We're enjoying music now. We're not getting inundated with the business side. We're not getting ripped off by management and dealing with band members. Now it's like we're 5 brothers, the same guys, like I said, for 30 something years. We call ourselves the Hotel California of bands. It's like you never leave, man. You're still a member no matter what. And yeah, it's been fun. And Chris McClernand, who is my Saigon Kick bandmate, he's in the band, and the rhythm section's there. So it's been a fun journey just jamming with him. And again, we haven't been in a room, but we do Zoom and FaceTime and stuff. And so we just decided to put singles out now. Yeah. And that's what we're doing. The videos, I direct the videos. That's what I do. I direct videos and I edit. I'm a movie editor, videos and film. And I do the videos. Chris does the producing the songs and mixing. So, and we have a great guy mastering who's at Master Disc, and yeah, it's fun. So that's what we're doing. Yeah. Is this a band that you think will hit the road at any time soon? I don't know. People ask, look, I want to play with these guys live. Like I want to share the stage with these guys, because we did shows back in '94. I mean, it's been that long. And I think the band itself, we have Revolution's a cool song, don't get me wrong, but it's nothing like what's coming. The new song, our next single is called Keep It to Myself. And Chris just mixed it. And I just got a copy of it. And it's a powerhouse. Like this one, Revolution was kind of like, let's get our feet wet. The video, I edited the video to basically it just covers current events, the last 2 years of all of our lives. As much as it's a political video, we don't take sides. I just put basically what had happened to us. We sat in front of televisions for 2 years and just got killed, and then internet killed with information, bad information, good information. We don't even know the information anymore. So that was the idea of the video, is that we just sat there, we're kind of mice in the maze, just being told what to do. And it was fun to do, but the next song to me is going to be like the first real single that would establish the band, so you never know. Yeah. When can we expect to hear that song? That's probably March, because he just finished mixing it. So we're going to start, I have to start editing the video. And before that, though, I've been writing songs, for years. And again, one of the things that we have is I wrote these songs back in '93 in the studio with Saigon Kick. And I have all the video, because we're putting the archives together to make this documentary. And I just happen to have everything in my career is documented, whether it's pictures or video. And I found all the video of me writing these songs. So what I did is I took the music and I put them, I'm working with different artists here. One of them is in Baltimore, who's a hip hop artist, believe it or not. I'm like the whitest guy on the planet, and I'm writing hip hop songs, which is hysterical. But he's such a great talent. His name is Rook the Crook. And then I have one of my writing partners here. Her name is Sean Coey, and Sean sings for Starship. And her pedigree is Meatloaf. Sadly, we just lost him. Dweezil Zappa, and she comes from the theater. So I gave her a song to sing on, and she rewrote the lyrics. So we have that song is coming out Monday. I have a new single with her on Valentine's Day called Every Soul. And right behind me is actually, I'm working on the video, because I'm just editing the final touches, and we're going to release a video on Monday. And then Barbara, my publicist, who sets everything up, she's going to go to radio with everything that next week. So in between the boom stuff, we're putting out our own stuff and, you know, putting out songs, because again, the COVID, it tapped into something that I really didn't know, which was, wow, I can record, you know, I mean, I'm a drummer, but I taught myself how to play piano over the last 2 years.
Wow.
And I'm writing. Yeah. I mean, it was like, that's what I used my time for. And as bad as COVID is and how awful and families lost, it's like, I just used the time to get my brain off of the madness. I just learned, and that was it. And I still do, you know, like that's all I do is I'm turning 55 this year, and I lost a lot of friends this year. You know, I lost very close people. My singer from Skid Row, John Solinger, passed away. We lost Frankie Benelli. And I mean, it's just like, it's nonstop of my friends over the last few years, Vinnie, Paul, all these guys. And I just, at my age now, I just want to really kind of enjoy life, because we're able to now, because we're older. And like I said in the beginning, it's like, we don't care about the music business. We just want to put music out for our fans. We have great fans out there. And one thing is for certain, no matter who wants to argue about politics and religion and bullshit, when I play a concert, I don't see any of that. I just see music fans, you know, and that's what I love. I love music. They love music. Let's love each other for a second. Okay. Forget about all the bullshit. They want us to fight. Let's not fall for that. You know, they're not going to take our music from us, you know, and that's how I see it. You know, I have to move forward and go that route, you know?
Yeah. Amen on that. I mean, that is the one thing that unites us. And I think, you know, especially nowadays with everything going on, we need to be united if we're going to get through this shit that we're going through. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you can have disagreements. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a drag down, kill you fight over nothing. Because, you know, I've been on this planet long enough, and you know this, you too, I'm sure. I'm not calling you old, but you're older gentlemen. So, I mean, we have seen a lot of presidents. We've seen a lot of bullshit. Okay. They come and they go, but we're still here. So you can't allow anybody to do that to you or your friends or anything, you know? And that's the way I look at it. And I think that division is the biggest asset to government, and we shouldn't allow that to happen in any way. So, you know, my Republican friends, and I'm an independent, but my friends are everybody. Like, I don't, you know, like, I don't judge you. I'm an atheist. My friends are Christians and Catholics. I don't care about that stuff. That doesn't come into play in my friendships, you know, because it's way deeper. So I just wish people would kind of look at it that way a little better, instead of just be like, well, F him because he didn't vote for this, or F him. And it's like, man, we're Americans first, you know, like, come on, let's you know, and that's how I look at it. I don't care what you believe.
Yeah.
You know, like, it doesn't affect me. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if
I
you're
mean,
Republican or Democrat or Trump supporter or Biden supporter.
Who gives a shit? I don't
That's
care.
right.
You know, like, that's a black, white. I don't see that. I don't see any colors. I don't see any religions. I don't see any of that stuff. I give the humans the chance. So I see humans, and there's a lot of shitty humans out there, you know, across the board. Has nothing to do with politics. I've met many shitty humans in my day. So I just think that fighting about it is dumb. It's like, you know, unless they truly deserve that they're scumbags or whatever, which, you know, it's just a weird time. It is definitely weird. You know,
Yeah,
you definitely hit that on the head.
Yeah, it definitely is. And to top that off, we have this really popular miniseries out right now called Pam and Tommy. Have you
Yeah,
had a chance to watch any of that yet?
I have not seen that yet. I hear it's really good. Have you watched it at all?
I watched the first 2 episodes, and I after the second episode, and which I watched with my wife, and I felt really uncomfortable watching it. It was like a little more explicit than what I like
Yeah.
to see, and I think I'm gonna need a break before I go into part 3. It should be like MA like 50. I mean,
I mean, we kind of saw the real movie, you know, back when the sex tape came out. So, you know, I know Tommy, and I love him to death. but I don't need to see their stuff. Like I watched The Dirt. I thought that was cool that they kind of did that. I'm a big Motley fan. What I watch around here? I watch comedy. I've been watching a lot of stand-up, love it. And great documentaries like the Beatles documentary the Beatles documentary changed me. The song Every Soul that's coming out on Monday is it's my Let It Be, if you will. Like Let It Be to me is like the greatest song ever written. And I was very much inspired when I wrote this song 30 years ago by Let It Be. And when I watched the documentary, I didn't realize that they were making Let It Be at this point, which is my favorite Beatles record too. I have it on vinyl. I have it, and it was like a religious experience. It's almost like I felt like I shouldn't be watching this, if that makes any sense, because it's like the Beatles are just God to me. And now it's like seeing the pilot in a plane. It's like, I don't want to see this pilot. I just want you to fly me to the thing. And there was moments where I stopped watching for a second and took it in. And I went through this roller coaster of sadness and joy. And then I realized that, they're gone, some of them, and their love. And one of the things that I got from this, I watched a documentary. I called Chris in the band, Chris McClernand. And I said, what I got from the Beatles documentary is what Panic Boom has. And that is a deep love for one another. These guys are my brothers. These guys are people that I love dearly, and they're my best friends. And I never experienced that in a band. They're my friends, don't get me wrong, but not to the extent now that we're not trying to screw anybody over. Like we're just, it's such a nice thing to write. I was just registering the songs in ASCAP, and everybody wrote these songs. Everybody's name is on them. Everybody recorded them. Chris produced them and mixes, and I direct, and it's like we're in it together, and that's the most fun. That's the joy of it, because when we put up Revolution on Bandcamp, somebody bought it for $1, right? Because we put it up for $1, and that day was one of the greatest days of my life, just for that $1. Because it was something that we decided to do, and we didn't need anybody but each other. Like we didn't need the label, we didn't need the managers, we didn't do it. And it was the $1. And I was more excited about that $1 than I was for my whole music career. I'm not kidding you. I was overjoyed by this. And it also showed how great fans are, because we put $1 there, but they're buying it for $10 and $5. Like they're back to what I said, man, the fans, because I'm a music fan. I'm a fan. I would spend money on a song like that. I would buy it for $5. I think that when you give the fans something and they enjoy the music, they always come through. Like they never disappoint. The music fan never disappoints. And that has been my whole career. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's why I want to put music out this way, because it's fun. And they're going to enjoy this stuff because we get to explore and experiment without a label going, hey, man, we need that now. We need that now. We do everything in our homes, so there's no cost, It's going to be cool. I think the fans are going to dig it.
Yeah, it seems like pretty much any interview I do with any rock star that's been around for a while always has some kind of like horror story about, dealing with the record label, being that they're getting ripped off financially, being that they're burnt out from having to do like 5 albums in 5 years and do 5 world tours.
No, it is true. And, we had an awful manager who embezzled money, and it's nothing new. I mean, it's been going on since, the beginning of music. There was probably a manager, stealing money back when they were hitting logs on Stonehenge. Like it's just human nature. Like you have artists and you have scumbags that want to rip off the artist. We have that with Spotify today. Just ripping people make me laugh. They talk about Joe Rogan. I'm like, I don't give a shit what Joe Rogan says. I'm pissed off that the guy doesn't pay us. Spotify, that's why I hate Spotify. Free speech is free speech. Okay. That has to stay. And I don't care. My day does not revolve around what Joe Rogan says. I don't give a shit what he has to say. I don't give a shit what anybody has to say, to be honest with you. If it's going to be negative and bullshit, I don't want to hear about it. I'm more pissed off that the guy has a company and doesn't pay the artists. I mean, Metallica has what, 1 billion plays, and what is that, 20 grand or something? I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's the truth of like why, what's going on today. That's why I get pissed off with all that stuff. But yeah, it's but it is fun not to deal with labels, because we still owe. I mean, Saigon Kick still owes like 400 or 500 grand to Atlantic. Yeah, it was crazy. We got the accounting because they're re-releasing the Saigon Kick records on vinyl. By the way, yeah, they if anybody wants the vinyl, Saigon Kick is getting re-released. The next record is the Water record, July 8th. And it's going to be a double album, live, some live tracks, but some bonus studio stuff. But it's going to be a fun little record, and I'm excited about that because it's our legacy. But again, we know we're not. I mean, we'll make mechanicals off of it, but we owe the label. So the label's doing a fire sale. Basically, they're just trying to make their money back. And that's the lesson learned when you're 20-something years old and a label gives you $1 million and you spend it on dumb shit. You have to pay it back. It's a bank, but we don't know this. You don't know that when you're watching videos on MTV. You just get like, you're in love with the idea, the romance of the business, and then it screws you. So yeah, we're just putting it out. And to your question of touring, Chris and I said, well, we can get the holograms made, and then we'll just sit at home and send out the rest of the guys because they want to play. But no, we'll end up playing some shows. I hope if we play shows, it's because it's successful. And but I already believe it's successful. It is right now as it stands, because we're doing interviews, we're talking about it. We have people that are buying it, and it's the videos out there. And success is how you gauge it. And to me, the dollar was my success on that. I'm good. Like that, I'm like, I'm cool with that. Let's get it, we'll go on to the next one.
And there's no recoup either. You don't have to
nothing.
Pay your managers back a $500,000 or anything like that.
And that was the running joke, because we have the 5 guys in the band. So we made 20 cents each. When Saigon Kick sold a record, I made a penny or 2 cents. So, that's the difference. It was like, and I'd rather sell it this way, and we do it, our way.
Yeah, back then, like you said, you owed $500,000. How many records would that extra record sales would equal to that $500,000? How many would you?
I don't know, because the band we had
5 million.
We had a crappy deal. I mean, we got 10 points, which is basically $10 cents a record, 10 cents on the dollar. So yeah, we'd have to sell 5 million records basically to recoup that $500,000. It's not only is it the record deal, but it's when we recorded the record, you're wrecking rental cars. Our food bill on the first record was like 40 grand, and we still talk about this today. When Saigon Kick was signed, our first record budget was like 125,000 or 150 grand.
And that was back in 1988, right?
1990 is when we got that. Yeah. Okay. And then we formed in 88, but our second record deal was 225 or something like that. Then we had a hit. So our next budget was like 3 something. Okay. So within those 3 records, there's probably 600,000-700,000, right? I would give anything for that budget right now, because we just did this record sounds better than all of those records together, and we did it for nothing. So I would love for a label to give me 100 grand right now, because we would take about 5,000 of it, for expenses and doing some promotion, and then, pocket it the 95, because we do it now ourselves and it sounds better. And, and this is what I wanted out of the music business. I wanted to use my experience today to not only record, but also talk to kids about it and pay it forward and keep it going, man. Because we got to preserve this music. Yeah. Kids today, kids today are they don't know the old bands as much as they should. And some of them do though. You have a Kiss shirt on, and I toured with Kiss in 2000, right? And I did 7 months with those guys when I was in Skid Row, and I had the time of my life. But you know what I loved about the Kiss shows is that the parents at the time, the older folks, were bringing their 18-year-old kids there, or their 15-year-old kids, and they got to experience Kiss, which are these kids at 15 back in 2000 are now 35, have kids, and they're bringing their kids to Kiss. And that's what I love about the music business, because it's like, hey, check out because I think that music today kind of lost its soul a little bit. Still good stuff, don't get me wrong, I'm not ragging on music, but when you do everything with a computer, there's a problem. And the one thing that we jokingly say is, yeah, we like Pro Tools, because we deserve Pro Tools, because every record I did was on 2-inch tape, so we had to play, like, we're good. Pro Tools makes it easier. It doesn't make us better, because we're already great. You know what I'm saying? But Pro Tools definitely makes it easier, where it's like copying and pasting vocals is lovely, because I saw in the old days, you'd have to splice a tape, you record it to a machine, they spliced a 1/4-inch tape, then they recorded back to fly vocals. So it was a process, and there was a guy with a razor blade and tape. It was an incredible thing to watch. Now it's copy and paste. So it's actually kind of cool. And as old guys, we deserve this. We deserve this technology.
It sounds like it was a nightmare back then, having to do all that. I mean, you listen to some of these stories about these classic records and what it took to put together, like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and Who's Next, and records like that. It was like, oh, wow, it's just so time consuming. It would drove me crazy. I wouldn't have the patience for that kind of stuff.
Especially like Pink Floyd, who's arguably probably used the most tracks with, they had these gigantic SSL boards with 180 tracks, 90 tracks. I have 250 tracks in my Pro Tools right now. Watching the Beatles doc, I was watching them put together that that studio with these, it looked like the ship's knobs, like in a boat, those giant faders. And I go, if I jumped in a time machine and just took Pro Tools with me and just landed there, I could record them, and like, no, you can't. You're still not going to you're not going to make them better. That was the time, the way they sound. But it's still amazing that I look at that gear and I just start laughing, because it's like, that's our cell phones basically were more powerful in what they were using to, like, to record Let It Be. Yeah. I'm just blown away by this stuff, like the just the brain, like a Sir George, and it was just an amazing thing. But yeah, so Pro Tools today, that's what we laugh about. Like, yeah, we'll copy and paste it.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the Kiss tour that you went on with while you remember Skid Row. I just want to kind of go through your timeline quick and just talk about, well, let's start obviously with Saigon Kick. Yep. Was there a bidding war for Saigon Kick before you signed with Atlantic? Were there any other labels interested in the band?
CBS. Yeah, CBS was, and then they passed right off the bat. But they came down to see us. And the night we were signed was the Friday night at the Button South, which was our major club there. We always sold it out as a local band. It's like 1,700 seater and packed. And Michael Wagner came down with Jason Flom. And they were in the mosh pit on Friday night, both of them. Jason Flom comes backstage and goes, I don't know what I just saw, but I'm signing it. So we went across the street to a Denny's. They wrote out a makeshift contract on napkins. The publishing company was there as well. They got it all together. Michael Wagner says, I want this band in LA on Monday. 2 days later, we're in LA recording. It happened that fast.
Wow.
So it was like a whirlwind. But before that, we had showcase for CBS, and they passed on it.
Yeah, I bet they regretted that decision.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's such a weird, and you know this, you watch documentaries, how many people passed on the Doors until the one guy from a lecture was like, they got something, I'm going to sign these guys. Same thing with Metallica and all these bands, but Guns N' Roses, when it took a PD to fucking just play a song, Nirvana. I mean, all these bands are like, they do records and they're like, nah, I'm not going to play them. And then all of a sudden somebody's like, you're crazy. So yeah, it takes somebody to kind of just go, I want them. And others, they'll probably kick themselves in the ass for many bands that they passed on. But how do you know?
It's difficult, looking back in retrospect. But yeah, a lot of bands, you hear about all these like record companies wanting them. They sign with one, and it's like the wrong one. And
Yeah, that happened to the singer in Panic Boom, Randy Bates. He was in a band called East of Gideon. They did a record. They got signed. Huge deal. Huge deal. They got signed around the same time as we did. Butch Vig produced it right after we finished a Nirvana record.
Wow.
Right. That thing, they had all the juice behind it. Nothing. Stayed on a shelf. When we got signed, my friend's band, Crier from Florida, they got signed, did a record on the shelf. And that's how quick it is. Like, you're that close. There's nothing worse. Look, it's one thing if you put a record out and it doesn't hit, but at least you put a record out. But when you record a record and put your heart and soul in it and then it sits on a shelf, oh man, that's brutal. And luckily that's never happened to us, or me. But that would probably be, that's worse. What does Frank say? I bet it's better to love than never loved at all. I mean, I'd rather have one hit than never have a hit at all. I mean, that's how, so yeah, it's a weird business. And I think that technology today has allowed people to be seen. It's also saturated, the market with garbage, but they have every right to put a record out too. An artist is an artist. What somebody's garbage is somebody's hit. So I don't know. I think that I like the technology for us. And when I was living in LA, doing stand up and acting and all that stuff and writing scripts, we used to have to go. My agent would take me to all the movie companies, and we'd sit in front of somebody, and they were called generals. And you would go in there at the general meetings, and you would just pitch your shit. Boom, boom. I got this. I got that. I got that. I got, and as soon as you finish pitching one, they're like, okay, what else? And it's like, it's crazy. Right. And now it's like, just make it yourself and put it on the internet, and then send a link to your buddies. And that's how you do it. It makes artists and unseen people, because you have to have an agent and all that stuff is hard to do. So, and they don't take unsolicited material, but these days, they're seeking out people. Before it was like you had a showcase for people. Now they're on the internet trolling, trying to find who the next big thing is. Yeah. And so that's kind of cool in itself, that the internet, at least that's something positive from a cesspool that humans just ruined, because it's in human nature to ruin it. You have the world at your fingertips, but you choose not to use it, or to use it wrong. It's weird. So at least it's being used right in the artist sense. So that's a positive on it.
Mm-hmm. Now with back to Saigon Kick, when you guys after you released your first record, what bands did you tour with, or did you guys go out and headline right away?
No, we toured with everybody. Oh God, our first tour was with Rat before a record ever came out. They did a club tour on the Detonator tour, and that was our first tour ever. Then our record came out, and we did Cheap Trick. We went out with them for a while. King's X, the Ramones, Extreme. I mean, it was like we were on the road. When our second record hit, The Lizard, we ended up doing some headline dates, but we were with Extreme on that end too. We were with Extreme in Europe when More Than Words went #1. That was in 91. Then in 92, when we had a hit, Extreme was still touring the States. They toured Europe first, and we continued with them. So we just did that whole tour, and then we continued doing some headlining stuff. And we would headline, depending on the area, we would headline certain things. But our touring wasn't that extensive after the second record, because the second record, Matt Kramer had left, the original singer. We put out the third record to, the record company was pretty much over everything at this point.
Yeah.
And, we went out and did some dates, and it was miserable. And then all of a sudden, oddly, we had a huge hit in Indonesia. It was very Spinal Tap-ish, and as we call it, Sex Bomb went #1. And we go to Indonesia. We have our records are #1 record in the country. We had 1, 2, and 3 at the singles. We did a sold out arena tour in Indonesia. I mean, who knew?
Wow.
And it was funny because you go over there and become a rock star for like a week, and then you come home, and then no one gives a crap anymore. But it was actually kind of fun. So weird stuff like that has happened with Saigon Kick. But after that, I went on to join Skid Row and stuff. So and I just tried to keep my career going, whether it's drumming or acting or whatever.
Between Saigon Kick and Skid
Yeah.
Row, you were with Rachel Bolan and
Yeah,
Prunella Scales, and I
Pernell
remember
Scales.
you guys played here in Buffalo, and I thought it was a cool show. I mean, that was a cool band, kind of punky.
Yeah,
And
it was fun. Yeah, it was our well, Rach is a huge punk fan. He loves punk music, and we did that record. Michael Wagner mixed it and stuff, and it was fun just to do a record, because Wagner did our first record and Skid Row's records. So that's how I met Rachel, was through Mike Wagner. So it was actually kind of fun, and it was a perfect time to because I just got out of Saigon Kick, and that was kind of the holdover. We did that, and then I joined. We did a record for Warner, Prunella Scales, and we did a tour of Japan. We did some dates in the States, and then they asked me to join Skid Row. So it was actually kind of a precursor to it. It was actually worked out real nice.
yeah, and with Skid Row, you did release the one record. You did go out on a tour with Kiss. That was their farewell tour. What was it like? I mean, I'm assuming that Kiss had to have an influence on you growing
Oh
up.
my God. It was like my walls came alive. Are you kidding me? I mean, all I did was stare at Kiss posters my whole childhood. I got Kiss double platinum on 8-track when I graduated 6th grade, with the 8-track player. It looks like a detonator, it was amazing. And, but I used to play drums in my room, and I had Kiss posters everywhere. So all of a sudden, it's their original band is like in front of you. And I was like, yeah, to catch your breath a little bit sometimes, because you're still a fan, no matter how you slice it. I went up to Gene the first day of the tour. He was sitting on a golf cart. They're driving him to the stage, and he's just sitting back, and he goes, yeah, you look like Trent Reznor, but Tommy Lee's arms. That's what he said to me. And I was like, thanks, Gene. Because I was like, I had long hair and stuff. And him and I just had a blast with Gene. Every night it was something new with Gene. And we had a girl competition. And it was hilarious because it's, I'm just like, I'm screwing with him while he's on stage. And I'm just sitting here like, is this real? Because again, you're going back to, you turn into a child. They meant so much to me, they did, who didn't they in the 70s, I mean, that's what I listened to. And then one night, Eddie, Peter's drum tech, said to me, hey, do you want to check Peter's kit? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously? Like this, I mean, I stared at this drum set for years, and I got behind it, and I got to, play his drums. And the last night of the tour, I was up, Peter called me up. They have their own little condos, they called, on the stage. So they dress and they change and, chill out when there's guitar solos, whatever. So Peter calls me up, and he's like, it's the last night of the tour. He goes, you're a paisan. He goes, they bust open some champagne, and we're toasting the tour. And so we start talking, and he goes, I really envied, you had that small kit out there, because I had just a 4-piece kit for the tour. And I said, well, why didn't you play something like that? He's like, because Gene, he wants this big friggin' drum set. I hate this drum set. I said, well, if I was you, I would trash it then.
Oh, wow.
And he goes, well, I can't do that. It's it's a DW kit. I was like, are you Peter Criss? He goes, well, yeah. I said, well, you get another kit, won't you? He's like, yeah. I said, well, the best thing to do then is to protest this giant drum set, and by trashing it. And they go up at the end of the show. I was like, you go up with the cats are up on that giant thing, just wing the kit off of it. And just trash it. He's like, no, I can't. I go, Keith Moon would do it. And he goes, yeah. Mooney would do it. So I got to him. I go, let's do it for Mooney. And we hugged and he kissed me, like Italian kiss. I have his white paint on my face. I'm all like in love, like walking out. I cannot believe Peter Criss. So at the end of the show, my buddy was there shooting the documentary, Waking Up Dead documentary. And I go, dude, I told Peter Criss to trash the drums. Put the camera on him. I'm telling you. And so the drums, the riser goes up and I'm waiting and I could see him just and he picks up this drum set and starts throwing it off the riser and trashes the thing. And I'm sitting there like I just watched my son hit a home run, in T-ball. It was amazing. And I'm just like, yes. And I cannot believe I talked Peter Criss into trashing his drum set. Wow. And I did. And that was like the most memory of that and putting on their wardrobe every time they're on stage. I used to go to wardrobe, but yeah. I
remember seeing that footage, and so now you're the one who inspired it, huh?
I told him, yeah, he actually, that's mine. I don't take credit for many things, but that was that night. That was cool. That was really cool.
Very cool. Ted Nugent was also on that tour, correct?
Yeah, Nugent was on that. It was Skid Row, Ted Nugent, and Kiss, and that was a blast. Uncle Ted is nuts, and we had a good time. He's look, I tell all my friends, I'm like, Uncle Ted is what he is. Okay, you love him or you hate him, but nonetheless, he stands his ground, and he has not changed in as long as I've known him, since 2000. But he's a funny dude, man. On the road, we were in I tell this story before, but we were in Rachel and I were in the showers. It was because we played the arena, so it was like a hockey shower, like the locker rooms, right? That's what dressing room. So it was like a huge hockey shower, and I'm doing hair, shampooing my hair, soaked up. All of a sudden, I hear Uncle Ted comes into the shower because he's about to go on. And he goes, clean them fallopians, boys. And he hits his guitar, woo, and just starts playing. And I'm like, holy shit, Ted Nugent's playing to us in the shower right now. This is the coolest thing ever. So yeah, because I'm not going to allow people in politics to ruin those moments for me. Those were great moments with Ted. And I respect the man, and his views are his views. But I just did a podcast with Ted. And we had a great time on the podcast. Me, Ted, Carmine Appice, Vinny Appice, and we had a wonderful time. Talking about his Broncos, and we could talk about other shit. It doesn't have to be politically driven. But if you ask him a politics thing, he's going to talk. But he didn't even talk about politics for an hour. We talked about music and his Broncos and just having a good time and talking about recordings and like we should talk about. And let's not let the music die,
Yeah. The thing about Ted Nugent is that you cannot, even if you don't agree with him, you cannot take away the fact that he's wrote some of the greatest guitar riffs of all time.
Yeah.
Great guitar player. Very dynamic performer.
His knowledge of music is beyond anything you can imagine. And him and Carmine Appice would, because they're in their 70s now. So I was like the young guy on the panel with those guys, and they're talking about Carmine's like, do you remember when you got kicked off? Jimi Hendrix kicked you off the tour? To Ted, and I'm just sitting there like my head's exploding. I'm like, they're talking about like gods right now, like stuff that we can only imagine because we weren't there for it or we were too young, Yeah. And Ted, I guess Ted. He went on before Jimi Hendrix, and Ted played his guitar with his mouth like Jimmy did. Jimmy did not like that. They booted him off the tour. But that's the stories I listened to. It was amazing, and then they played Revolution. They played a piece of Revolution on the show, and Ted picked up his guitar and played to it, just started soloing over it. And I was just like, this is music, this is what we should be talking about and having these great stories because, no matter what you say, music, we're all connected there, like instead of yelling about demigods and bullshit people that'll be gone in a couple of years, you can actually go, hey man, what's your favorite band? Try that first before you talk about religion and politics. And I bet you're going to fucking hit on something that people are going to love, and it's not going to be that bad. And you're going to, what, this guy is just like me,
Yeah.
So, and that's what you gotta, that's what people have to tap into.
Mhm.
you know,
Well,
because I'll have a
hopefully we'll get back to
conversation.
that.
I hope so. I really do. And it's for the goodness of music, for the goodness of just humanity. We need music. We need to stop fighting, and we need to stop being told about stuff from crooks. The government in general is just a bunch of crooks. That's all. Both sides. There's nothing new there. That's since day one. Let's not let them control everything. Like let us have some shit, man. So I'm always going to be on that side of music and talking it out if you need to. Some people just you can't, but nonetheless, I still think it's worth it, at least
I,
trying.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Next in your timeline, you were a member of the Vince Neil band
Yeah.
in 2003. So what was it like playing Tommy Lee's drum parts? Was it very challenging for you, or?
It was actually surreal because it's the reason why I play music today was Tommy Lee. Um, I was going to be a professional golfer. That was my goal, and I was also I was going to major in architecture, but play golf as well in college. And I guess around 1983, when Looks to Kill came out, I was just blown away. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, MTV just had come out in 1980. It was a couple of years prior, and that was just changing everything for me, anyways. But I hadn't played drums in a long time, and I was in the band. The band I was playing with, the guitar player Tony Cortese is in Panic Boom today. So it's my first band ever, back in 80, 82, 83. I saw that video and I was like, I want to do that. So I spent my childhood, both my teens, playing a Motley Crue, sitting there with the Looks to Kill record and just dreaming of being this guy, this Tommy Lee. I'm like, I can't believe it. It was like larger than life. Remember, in the music business back then, you had romance with the bands. You were not just a fan. You were in love with this band. You would die for this band. Like it was such a different time. And you would sit there and just read liner notes. And as a musician, I just wanted to be a rock star so bad. So when I got to know Vince, he had called me and he goes, "Hey man," I was still in Skid Row, and I was off, and he goes, "Hey man, I'm doing this tour. You could just throw a band together for me. Let's do this tour." I said, "All right, cool." So I put a band together, and the first night we did, we opened up with Shout at the Devil. And I remember the first time I saw Motley Crue live was at the Hollywood Snortatorium, and they were opening for Ozzy, okay, with Jake E. Lee, which is really, it's a full circle that comes around.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about Jake in a little while. Yes.
Yeah, right. So I just remember being so excited that I was in the same building as Motley Crue. And then the doors open and there was Vince, and I just like lost my shit. I was just like, this is the great, as every fan should, right? So when I put my foot up on the riser and In the Beginning started, and with Looks to Kill, Shout at the Devil, I stopped for 1 second and went, oh my God, I'm about to play this. Wait a minute, this is weird. And it was like this moment that I just had with myself that was pretty intense. It was like, whoa, this is just came around full circle. Like you don't even think about it, but it was pretty heavy. And yeah, that just it, because Motley changed my life, and that was pretty special moment for me to do that. And it was fun. Oh my God, I knew those songs in and out because that's all I played to, so it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So how long were you in the Vince Neil band?
We just did one tour because I was still in Skid Row, so it was just
right.
Yeah, his drummer Fitzy had some other commitments. So because those guys were hired guys as well. So it just so happens that they couldn't do it. So we just put the tour together. So it was just a few weeks, but it was a riot. Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah. And then you quit the music business for a while after that, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. I went to rehab, and after the Poison tour, man, that was probably the most fun I ever had in my life. I just decided that it was time to live instead of die, because I would have died on the road. I mean, that's I was on that path. My mother had just passed away. I was just trying to medicate, not give a shit. And then I decided to get sober, and I wanted to do other stuff. So I moved to LA. I was writing scripts and doing stand-up and acting, and did all kinds of fun stuff. I shot adult movies for Vivid. I was a director there. Shot my own series, of my lifestyle. I, did Celebrity Rehab. I did all that shit because I just was like, man, I'm gonna live. Like I don't care. I didn't do anything that was illegal. I didn't do, well, I mean, drugs are, but I'm saying, but during that time, it's like all the stuff I did, I could talk about. It's not like I did anything shady. I wanted to experience life, and I did, and I still do. My next bucket list is to get a pilot's license. I want to do that, and I want to work for a movie company and edit Hollywood movies. That's where I'm going. I love editing, and that's my next career. It is my career now. That's how I work. I have a regular editing jobs, because that's I love to do. And I direct videos on the weekends and stuff. So yeah, it's like I all that stuff I wanted to do, I just did. That was it. And I tell people all the time, it's like, don't say you can't do it. If you want to do stand-up, go get a mic, go up to do 5 minutes in an open mic. That's what I did. Scariest thing I ever did in my life, but it was great. And I recommend it for anybody. You want to act, go take acting lessons. I did, audition. I did. I got parts. Why not? Everybody can do it. Don't say you can't, doesn't matter. So that's how I look at life to this day. And I'm having a good time doing that way. It's happier. And I think that back to the band, it's like, because we're able to put music out and we don't have to rely on it. It's a lot more fun. And that's what everything is these days. It's more of like, this is act 3 of my life movie. That's what I call it. Act 1, it's the beginning. You're learning, you're doing, dumb shit. You're just figuring it out. Act 2, you're really doing dumb shit. That's when you get married, you get divorced, so act 3, you're supposed to be wise. You're supposed to take all your experience and go, you know what? All right, I'm going to take everything. And now I'm going to enjoy my kids. I'm going to enjoy what my skills are. I'm going to enjoy my friends that have been there for 35 years. And I'm just going to do that. And that's what I'm trying to do. And you're going to screw up along the way, and that's okay. Like, it doesn't matter. So that's my outlook these days. And I'll just continue doing stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I want to talk about probably the last band you played in before your since Panic Boom. You played in with Jake Lee in the Resurrecting Cartel. What was it like playing with Jake? You recorded a record with him. You went out on tour with him. What was that experience like?
Incredible. Jake is just one of the greatest humans that I know. One of the greatest guitar players in the world. The nicest, solid guy you'd ever meet. At no time would you ever believe that he was Jake Lee. There's no ego. He's just a good dude. Like he's got a great sense of humor, and he took me to a level of playing that I'll never, I'm so grateful for that, because we went in the studio and I was intimidated. It took me 7 days. I auditioned for that band for 7 days straight. I flew to Pennsylvania. I spoke to Ant on the phone, the bass player. I said, dude, I got a ticket. I'm coming there. He's like, what? I go, yeah, I'm coming. I want the gig. I'm going to fight for the gig. And every day I'd go into rehearsal. Jake had a different schedule, so he would sleep till like 5. And we would rehearse from like 9 to like 4 in the morning. Weird schedule. But during the day, I just played drums all day. So I was playing drums for like 15 hours a day. And Jake heard it, and he later on would tell me, he's like, I heard you practicing out there. I heard the heart. That was what it was about. And he also knew that I had the skill to do what he needed me to do. And he opened my eyes to drumming that I didn't look at drumming that way, because I have this career of 25 years at the time, and I played a certain style, but he allowed me to play that style within the style of stuff. Like he introduced me to Carmine after he's old drumming. Like I knew Carmine, I've known Carmine for years, but Cactus and like old Hendrix stuff that we listened to, and Montrose and all these cool bands. And I'm like, oh wow, because I never really listened to that stuff as a kid, and it really opened my eyes. Bill Ward, it's old Sabbath stuff, and it came through. It's probably by far my best drumming record to date. the drumming on the Boom record is pretty damn good too, I have to say. I'm pretty proud of that. So yeah, it's Jake was incredible. I just love him. I really, I cannot say enough about him. And there was a time you forget who you're playing with, and then Jake played like Crazy Train, I'm sorry, Bark at the Moon, and you go, damn, that sounds the way it's supposed to sound. Like that's when it dawns on you, and you kind of look up and you giggle. It's like, there he is. Because back to the story, so Jake is playing with Ozzy, right? And I'm at the arena watching this thing, but I went with this kid. His name was Rich Arcia, that I went to school with. And Rich is like, yeah, we'll go to the thing. Jake Lee's my cousin. So we'll get backstage and we'll go meet him and stuff. And I'm like, all right, we're kids, we not knowing that backstage is probably the most boring place on the planet. But at the time, that's what we wanted to know. We're going backstage. So we're walking around the arena like a dope for like an hour trying to get back. And he's telling the security, hey, I'm Jake Lee's cousin and blah, blah, blah. And they never let us back, right? So I get the gig with Jake, fast forward, and I go, Jake, you got a cousin named Rich Arcia by any chance? And he's like, no, I have no idea who that is. I was like, you don't have think about this, long lost cousin, maybe, because he's an Asian dude, like I'm trying to connect it. He's like, nope, I don't have it. I immediately got on Facebook, went to Rich Arcia's page, and I said, dude, you are not Jake Lee's cousin. And I know this because I'm sitting next to him right now and I'm in a band with him. So how dare you? It was like, I had to, because I was so disappointed back then that I couldn't get back there and believe this bullshit that he was the cousin. And it pissed me off. And and it comes full circle. So that was actually kind of my, gotcha.
Yeah. And also you mentioned in a prior podcast that you auditioned for Ozzy, and it was a very miserable experience for you. But now, you kind of got your redemption because you're playing with Jake Lee and you practice your ass off to get that gig.
Yeah. So, we were supposed to open for Ozzy. And Jake and Sharon really didn't get along too well, during that time. And they offered us the New Year's Eve gig was going to start it with Marilyn Manson, all that stuff. We were supposed to be on that. And they offered some kind of insulting guarantee, and Jake told them to F off. But I was kind of hoping we played that just because, so I could see Sharon and go, look, I'm the guy that Vinnie Paul sent over, because it was a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, Sharon was calling Vinnie, like she thought it was a joke, like that he like set her up or something. It was that bad. So yeah, it would have been a good redemption. But yes, I do believe, because even when I was auditioning for Jake, in my brain, I'm like, does he know about this Ozzy audition? I don't know, because that's how much it haunted me.
Yeah.
It's a traumatic experience, right? So
it's
trauma that you take with you, right? And Jake would come into, like, while I'm, still auditioning, he'd come in and he'd look at his phone in rehearsal and he's like, do you know so-and-so, some name? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, okay. And he'd walk out. I'm like, what the, like, he must know about the, and he was mentally, he was just working me to death. Like I found out later, and it was his, now I think about it, it's hilarious, because he did it to me every day. He'd be like, do you know, I'm like, no, why? He's like, no, that's cool, whatever, and just walk away. So I thought for sure. So when I got the gig, did you hear about the Ozzy audition? He's like, no, I don't even know what you're talking about. I was like, oh, okay. I thought so. He didn't even heard of it. He didn't hear about it. He had been long gone at that point. Joe Holmes, I think, was playing guitar, and Zach. So, but at the audition, it was Joe Holmes and Robert Trio from Metallica. He joined Metallica soon after. But yeah, what a disaster.
So that was what, 94?
2000.
Oh, 2000.
It was right before I joined Skid Row. In fact, I was.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, right, I was in LA, and I was living at John Corabi's house, and Krabby is like, dude, I'll go to the audition with you just to give you moral support. And I'm like, I need this, because he auditioned for Motley. Like, that was a tough deal, So I'm like, yeah, I'll bring Krabby with me. So, and he stayed outside the room, and I And I'll just never forget his face when I walked out of that door. He was like, oh man, all right, well, it's all right. It was that bad. So
Yeah. Were there any other bands that you auditioned for throughout your career that you didn't get the gig for?
no, I auditioned for Ted Nugent after I went to rehab. Actually, I wanted to play again, and I auditioned for Ted, and he called me, and it was me and Wild Mick Brown. That's who auditioned, and the bass player, I think his name was Barry. He
Barry
was playing,
Sparks.
yeah, he was playing bass in Dokken at the time. So Uncle Ted calls me, and in true fashion, he's like, "Phil, you living American dream, Daddy? How you doing?" I was like, I said, "I'm good, Uncle Ted." He goes, "Look, I just wanted to call you, and I'm going to tell you right now that I'm giving the drumming gig to Mick Brown." He goes, "And I'm doing that because the bass player, I got to keep the rhythm section together because he plays bass in Dokken." And I said, "I agree with you. I would do the same thing." He goes, "I'm just telling you this because I want you to know that it's not because you're a bad drummer. It's because I have to do it this way, but you're an incredible drummer. And if it wasn't this way, I would have you play with me." And he was very gracious. And that was the day that I got so much, and I respected him a lot before that, but that's my moment with him, is why I'll never diss him. Or, because I got Ted. I got a man who not only cares about music, but he cared about me and my feelings. And he just wanted me to know this because of my talent. He wanted me to go on too, because he understands that, a bad audition can really screw you up, and I just thought that was just so gracious of him. And so, I can't say enough about it. And that was the only other audition. And then I played with Bobby Kimball from Toto. He did some shows and I was playing drums for him. And then I joined Jake. So, and then COVID. So that was pretty much the timeline until now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So,
You played with some great musicians over the years. You've been very blessed to play with some like, the A-list musicians, rock icons. Could you narrow it down to like one person that you feel was the most talented musician, the one that blew you away the most?
definitely Jake. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, as far as a band is concerned, I jammed with a lot of great guys, but I mean, as far as a musician, like when I play with Cheap Trick, like just jamming, it was pretty cool. I mean, I love Cheap Trick. But as far as Jake, by far is probably, that's the pinnacle for me. Just my experience, him as a human, the band, I love those guys. It was so much fun to play. And I just had a great time. And I learned so much. If you're thinking who'd you play with, where you learned, you had a good time, and you took something out of it. I learned more in that studio session for that week of recording my drums than I did in pretty much any of them. And I love the Skid Row record we did. I love that record. The Thick Skin. We did that at Johnny Bon Jovi's house with Steve Hagler. Was producing, and then we went to another studio and did some other stuff there. And those guys I loved. The Thick Skin record is one of my favorites as well. That never really got the light of day. But boy, what a great record that is, And I think every record I did is a progression of talent and bands and songs. So there is no records that I don't like. But if I'm going to say my best drumming so far that's out would be the Red Dragon Cartel record. My favorite record will be this Boom record because of what it stands for. But there's also amazing playing. And I wrote all the songs with the band. This is my first record that I have, that my name's on every song with all these guys, because we wrote them together. And that's special. So yeah, that'll be my favorite record for sure. And it is I heard it, so you guys haven't heard it yet, but it is my favorite record, and there's some really good drumming on it as well.
Well, Phil, I can't wait to hear the record. I'm sure a lot of your fans can't wait either. So just want to say thank you again for your time. And
my pleasure.
When do you think the record will be released in its entirety?
Probably around March. I'm sorry, May area. The next single will be out in March. But if you go to it's panicboomband.com, That's our landing page. That's our website. And from there, you can go to all of our things, Bandcamp, YouTube, all the streaming services, everything's on there. For me, philvarone.com, or, my Twitter, or everything is Phil Varone or Real Phil Varone. But this Monday, Valentine's Day, I should say, my single with Sean Coey will be out as well. So, and we'll have that, it'll be on my Bandcamp, which is Phil Varone, and it'll be on all streaming as well. So yeah, so definitely look out for that stuff, because I think people are going to be surprised with that song, because it's actually a song that I wrote, like, on piano and stuff. So it's a really cool, it's a great song for, Valentine's Day, very uplifting, spiritual type song. But yeah, but as far as the boom is concerned, panicboomband.com, baby. You can see anything you want there. Everything, take you to all the places, and also information, and we'll know for sure.
All right. Well, thank you again,
Cool.
Phil. It was a very interesting interview, and best of
Thank
luck
you.
to you. And we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Take care.